On my way home for New Year's Eve, just because I disagreed with letting Emma Shaw, who didn't have a driver's license, sit in the driver's seat, Nate Clark made me, 6 months pregnant, drive for 8 hours straight. Emma fed him mango cake in the backseat as if no one else was there. Pointing at my swollen post-pregnancy figure, they mocked me without restraint. Rose's sister now seems like a sow driving. I was itching all over and had constant stomach cramps. But still patiently explained to her, all expectant mothers gain weight, and besides, I've been driving for so long, it's inevitable to look a bit disheveled. Nate immediately changed his expression upon hearing this. It's just driving while pregnant. Do you really need to play the victim with Emma? If you don't want to drive, walk back yourself. In the freezing winter of -10 degrees, he forcefully dragged me out of the car, and my belly unexpectedly hit the charging station. A warm flow surged beneath me as I clutched my painfully heavy pregnant belly, begging him to call for help, but he coldly shook off my hand and said, still trying to play the victim, "Let me tell you, it won't work. If you don't crawl back to your hometown today, we won't need to get our marriage certificate." My heart turned to ashes, and before I completely lost consciousness, only one thought remained in my mind. This marriage, it's better not to go through with it. The baby is already 6 months old, what a pity. In my dazed state, I faintly heard the woman's voice filled with regret. On the highway Nate held Emma close, the image of their departing figures still echoing in my mind. I slowly opened my eyes, and a doctor in a white coat immediately leaned in. "Don't move around yet. You need to rest properly now." The scene of blood flowing uncontrollably beneath me before losing consciousness resurfaced in my mind. Panicked, I touched my slightly flattened abdomen and struggled to sit up. "My baby, how is my baby?" The doctor's gaze was filled with sympathy. "You were brought in with severe bleeding, so we had to induce labor." Hearing her words, my tears instantly welled up and overflowed. Just yesterday, it had been kicking and moving inside me all night long. Today, my bond with it is completely severed. How can I accept this? I slapped myself hard, one blow after another. If I hadn't stubbornly driven for 8 hours straight, my child might not have been lost like this. The doctor hurriedly stopped my frantic movements and cautiously asked me, "The hospital called your emergency contact several times, but couldn't get through. Would you like to try reaching out to him again? Having your family by your side would surely make you feel better." I numbly shook my head at her, my throat filled with bitterness. I grew up in an orphanage since childhood, without parents. All alone in the world. After Nate and I started dating, I always set him as my emergency contact on my phone. Now that I, an outsider, am no longer bothering them, he and his adopted sister Emma must be overjoyed. Outside the window, fireworks lit up the dark night sky, and the streets echoed with the innocent laughter of children. It was supposed to be a time for family reunion, but I lost my child forever, numbly. I completed the discharge procedures and returned alone to the small home I had set up in City A. In the 5 years with Nate, I had always hoped we could eventually settle down together, yet he always used "it's too early" as an excuse to delay taking me back to City A to meet his parents. I've argued with him, made scenes, even threatened to break up with him. But in the end, I couldn't bear to part with the occasional tenderness he showed me, so I obediently bought a property in his hometown. Every time he returns home for the new year, I stay in this house, ready to take care of him anytime, anywhere. I often hope that with just one glance back, he'll see all I've done for him. It wasn't until I accidentally got pregnant this time that Nate finally relented. At this thought, I curled the corners of my lips. What does it matter even if he relented? He could still heartlessly pull me out of the car with just one word, "Now that the child is gone." What's the point of continuing this relationship? I entered the password and opened the door. Under the warm yellow light, 2 people who should have been having New Year's Eve dinner at their own home appeared abruptly before my eyes. They were passionately kissing each other on the sofa, like a deeply affectionate couple. A sudden, unbearable pain racked my entire body. Gritting my teeth, I grabbed a figurine from the entryway and hurled it at them with all my strength. Bang! Nate clutched the back of his head, grimacing as he turned around. "Rose Cole, what's gotten into you?" Emma was wearing the new pajamas Nate had given me, her collar slightly revealing, her face flushed, at the sight of me, she pretended to panic, clutching her collar and shrinking into Nate's arms. "Rose, why didn't you knock before coming in?" I was infuriated by the shameless words of this despicable couple. On the highway, Emma practically sat on Nate's lap to feed him cake. I could barely console myself with the thought that they were just siblings with a particularly close bond, but now, witnessing them brazenly take over my home and kiss shamelessly in my living room, I couldn't tell anymore whether I felt more anger or disappointment. "This is my home." With those words, I turned and walked straight into the bedroom without looking back. Nate's gaze followed me closely, his brows furrowing impatiently. "Emma has been traveling all day and is starving. Go cook for her right now. Don't think just because you're pregnant you can act pitiful and make things difficult for Emma. You're her sister-in-law, it's your duty to take care of her." He turned and pinched Emma's cheek, his tone softening slightly. "Emma loves sweet and sour fish, mapo tofu, and pineapple fried rice the most. The fish shouldn't be too fishy, the tofu shouldn't be too spicy, and the rice shouldn't be too sweet. Brother really knows me best." Emma giggled and hugged his neck tightly, planting a firm kiss on his cheek. Hearing the intimate sounds from the living room, I curled my lips in self-mockery. The itching and stinging sensation on my arm seems to be surging back. He remembers Emma's preferences clearly, yet never bothers to remember my severe allergy to mangoes. During these 5 years of living together, I've been rushed to the hospital multiple times just from smelling mangoes, but he doesn't care at all. Even allowing Emma to bring mango cake into the car once again, I absent-mindedly packed Nate's clothes left here into the suitcase. I just had to wait for daybreak to kick both him and Emma out the door. Meanwhile, not seeing me come out of the bedroom for a long time, Nate suddenly felt a flicker of panic in his heart. Subconsciously, he released his arm from around Emma and stood up to walk into the bedroom. "Rose, are you still upset about what happened on the highway?" Nate closed the door and hugged me from behind, gently rubbing his chin against my hair. "I know driving for 8 hours must have been tiring for you. I promise I'll take turns with you next time." His condescending tone felt like needles pricking at my heart, causing a dull ache. An unfamiliar yet cloyingly sweet scent wafted straight to my nose. My stomach churned with nausea, and I quickly broke free from his grasp. Rushing into the bedroom's bathroom to vomit uncontrollably, Nate stared blankly at his now empty arms. In the past, no matter how angry or upset I was, I had never once refused his affectionate advances. He withdrew the smile from his face and looked down at me condescendingly. "Rose, all women get pregnant. Don't keep trying to use the child to seek attention from me." Leaning against the toilet, I vomited until tears welled up in my eyes, forcing a faint smile at him. "The child. Have you ever cared about the child in my belly? When I first got pregnant, he tried to persuade me to abort the baby. I cried and made a scene, exhausting all my efforts to keep it. Later, every time we argued, Nate would strangle me with bloodshot eyes, viciously accusing me of using the child to climb the social ladder. On the highway, he violently threw me out of the car, causing my pregnant belly to hit a charging post. Perhaps it was his deliberate move to deprive me of this bargaining chip that could force him to take me home. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. "If I hadn't come back today, would you have let Emma replace me as your girlfriend?" For some reason, Nate's anger completely dissipated. With understanding, he curled the corners of his lips, crouched down, and wiped my mouth with a towel. "Mom and Dad went on vacation for the new year, and I was worried Emma would feel too lonely at home alone, so I brought her here to wait for you together. You know very well that Emma is young and loves to cling to me. As her sister-in-law, don't be so unreasonably jealous. You should be more understanding of her." "Understanding?" I scoffed mockingly. "You openly kissed right in front of me. If I keep being understanding, will you next be taking care of her in bed?" "Rose," Nate suddenly raised his voice, glancing sideways at the bedroom door, "don't project your filthy thoughts onto Emma. She's far more innocent than you think." I let out a long sigh, no longer wanting to argue with him. A 24-year-old adult woman was merely an innocent and naive girl in his words. Yet, at 28 and pregnant, I was labeled by him as a scheming woman with filthy thoughts, only playing the victim. Clenching my fists, I looked up at him and asked, word by word, "Nate, Have you never once considered introducing me to your parents? For the past 5 years, his parents have always been waiting back in their hometown every spring festival for him to return and reunite with them. Why is it that this particular year, just as Nate agreed to bring me home, his parents suddenly flew away to spend winter elsewhere? Nate subconsciously avoided my gaze, awkwardly changing the subject. All right. As long as you admit your mistake now and promise to get along well with Emma in the future, I won't hold today's inappropriate remarks against you. In the past, whenever I asked him about this issue, he would always evade the question and brush me off like this. I felt unwilling, wronged, helpless. But now, my heart has become a barren wasteland. Slap. With all my strength, I vented my anger by delivering a fierce slap across Nate's face. This slap is for my dead child. Nate's face quickly swelled red. He opened his mouth, stunned and unable to regain his composure for a long while. What, Rose, what did you say about the child? His gaze fell on my stomach, and just as he was about to lift my shirt to check, a sudden knock came at the door. Brother, Rose, please don't fight over me anymore. Today's incident was all my fault. I'll leave right away and never disturb you again. Emma's voice trembled with tears as she let out an unexpected cry. Nate paused mid-step toward me, immediately preparing to turn around. I don't know where the impulse came from, but I tightly grabbed the hem of his shirt. If you walk out that door today, I'll disappear from your life completely. Nate frowned and without hesitation pried my fingers open one by one. Stop being so petty, Rose. It's freezing outside, and tonight's New Year's Eve. Emma might catch a cold if she goes out. I can't possibly let her go alone at a time like this, outside. The lights were bright, and fireworks lit up the sky. It should have been a warm and joyful moment, but my heart grew unprecedentedly calm. Yes, from beginning to end, he only ever felt sorry for Emma, in the freezing winter of -10 degrees. Even when I was pale with pain and begged him desperately to make a rescue call for me, he could turn a deaf ear, unwilling to spare me even a shred of warmth. What is there left in this utterly devastated love that I still can't let go of? Go. I slowly released my grip. The indifferent tone made Nate hesitate for a fleeting moment in his eyes. The next second, a loud slamming door echoed from the living room, and he quickly withdrew the corner of his clothes. I'll bring Emma back before midnight. Be good, and we'll talk things through clearly then. After hastily leaving these words, Nate didn't even have time to grab his phone before chasing after Emma's retreating figure. I sat motionless on the ground like an ice sculpture. After what felt like an eternity, the sound of firecrackers outside the window began to ring out one after another. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It was Emma who sent the message. I'm sorry, Rose sis, it's all my fault for being so willful. Big brother has already punished me severely just now. In the attached photo, Emma's body is covered in bruises, with a bony hand gripping her long legs wrapped in black stockings. I heard that since Rose sis got pregnant, Big brother has been enduring a lot. Why don't I help him relieve his needs during this time? I believe Rose sis, who loves Big brother so much, wouldn't be angry, right? I scrolled up to review my chat history with her. In the past, whenever Nate was around her, she would always send me such provocative messages. Before, considering she was my sister-in-law, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but from now on, I won't hold back anymore. I took screenshots of all the messages she sent me during my relationship with Nate, along with my induced abortion certificate, and posted them on my social media and Weibo. At the same time, I meticulously outlined the timeline and converted these contents into PDF files. Through Nate's lost phone, I not only uploaded the files to his company's intranet but also distributed them one by one to his friends and WeChat groups. Just as the spring festival arrived, the internet was at its liveliest, the moment the files were uploaded. The company intranet and WeChat groups were the first to erupt in chaos. What's going on? I see Clark manager's girlfriend picking him up every day after work. With such a great partner, he still can't resist flirting and cheating with his own sister. Clark manager usually seems so refined, but on New Year's Eve he actually threw his girlfriend out of the car, causing her to miscarry. Does this guy have violent tendencies? At Class 2, Finance Major, 13th grade Nate. I used to envy your close relationship with your sister. But turns out you're playing such dirty games behind the scenes. You're only finding out now. I saw him kissing this girl outside the dorm back in my junior year. At the time I thought she was his girlfriend, but turns out it was his sister. TSK. It's 2025 already and there are still child brides around. As soon as these words were spoken, the university group chat erupted in an uproar. The crowd was furious, hurling insults and condemning Nate as a scumbag who wouldn't even spare his own adopted sister. I scrolled through my phone screen, reading those unsightly curses, and couldn't help but laugh out loud. Nate always claimed Emma was an ignorant girl who knew nothing of the world, didn't he? Isn't he? This brother who indulges his sister's unrestrained closeness and refuses to draw clear boundaries between genders, exactly the scum everyone talks about. The moment Nate sees these messages, imagining his face filled with anger and unbearable shame brings me immense satisfaction. It's just a pity that I'll never get to witness this gratifying scene. I packed all my belongings overnight and bought the earliest flight ticket back to W City. At the moment before boarding, I stood by the massive floor-to-ceiling window, quietly gazing at the rising sun over City A, my mind filled with only one thought: Nate, you and I, our fate ends here. On the other side, Nate, suffering from a hangover, felt like his head was about to explode. Emma carefully fed him water in an ingratiating manner, pouting as she apologized. "Brother, since I've been serving you since early morning, please don't be mad at me anymore, okay?" Last night, after chasing Emma into the bar, under the fierce assault of her tears, Nate had no choice but to have a few drinks with her. The thought of Rose waiting for him at home made Nate grab Emma's wrist and head for the door. Emma quickly pulled Nate's arm back, blinking coquettishly as she said, "Today is the first day of the Lunar New Year. I just want to spend some alone time with you." "Brother, no third wheels allowed. Big brother is always spending time with Rose and never pays attention to me, your little sister. You should spend more time with me these 2 days. I'm sure Rose would understand." Nate couldn't resist Emma's persistent pleading and had no choice but to agree. He patted his pocket. His phone wasn't there. The thought of calling Rose immediately vanished. Nate stayed with Emma at home until the 3rd day of the Lunar New Year before finally taking advantage of her nap time to return to Rose's place. As soon as he opened the door, the house felt unusually quiet and empty. The Rose who should have prepared a table full of dishes and greeted him with a smile the moment he stepped inside was nowhere to be seen. Nate glanced around the living room, then hurried to check the bedroom and kitchen. No one. There's no trace of Rose anywhere. He was upset and felt something was off. These past few days, to peacefully accompany Emma without being disturbed by Rose, he didn't even come to retrieve his dropped phone. Now Rose isn't waiting obediently at home for his return. Could she really be angry this time? Nate irritably picked up his phone from the couch. Just as he was about to call Rose, messages began popping up on the screen one after another. "Are you even human? Nate, all you do is hide like a coward. Your sister is a schemer, and you're scum. You two are a match made in heaven. How could you lay a hand on your own 6-month-old child? You're worse than an animal. Don't let me see you again, or I'll beat you up every time I do. Consider it payback for your girlfriend." Manager Clark, given the negative impact your chaotic personal life has brought to the company, we have no choice but to temporarily suspend you pending investigation. We hope you can resolve your family matters as soon as possible. Nate was completely bewildered, his mind crashing from the sudden barrage of accusations. Frowning, he scrolled through the flood of messages until he found a PDF file. When he saw the contents of the file, his mind went completely blank. Emma secretly sent those suggestive messages to Rose behind his back, along with the indecent photos she took while he was unconscious, each one shattering his perception of Emma, the innocent little sister who used to follow him around in his memories. How could she secretly be this unrecognizable version of herself? Nate couldn't believe it. And then there was that day on the highway when he accidentally flung Rose onto the charging station. He only wanted her to admit her mistake and apologize, never imagining he would end up killing his own child with his own hands. Nate's mind was in chaos. At that moment, all he wanted was to immediately call Rose and get everything cleared up. But what responded to him was the emotionless voice of an AI. Sorry, the subscriber you dialed cannot be reached for the moment. Please try again later. Nate stared at his phone screen in disbelief. In the 5 years they had been together, although he had rarely initiated contact with Rose, this was the first time Rose had refused to answer his call. An unprecedented panic gripped his heart. Nate hurriedly pulled Rose out from the folded chats on WeChat. Rose, I'm sorry, it's not what you think between me and Emma. She deliberately sabotaged our relationship. We can have another child if we lose this one. Please answer my call, okay? As soon as the message was sent, a bright red exclamation mark appeared in front of it. Nate widened his eyes in disbelief. He had been blocked and deleted by Rose. Did she really believe Emma's nonsense? Which is why she exposed these chat records and decided to cut all ties with him. Nate trembled uncontrollably, leaning against the wall, barely able to support himself. Just as he was in despair, the doorbell suddenly rang. Rose. Nate was overjoyed and couldn't wait to open the door. Emma threw herself into his arms and complained unhappily, "Why did you leave without saying a word? Brother, you promised you'd stay with me all the time. I'm upset now. So you have to make it up to me by drinking with me again." Nate felt all his joy drain away. He gripped Emma's shoulders tightly, his gaze burning as he asked, "Rose refuses to answer my calls. Do you know why?" Emma paid no attention to the pain in her shoulders. Her mind completely occupied by Rose's refusal to answer the phone. She had persistently sent Rose so many messages, and now they were finally having an effect. "Brother, Rose might be trying to give us some space. Don't worry, Rose has always been independent and capable. She'll definitely take good care of herself." Emma's eyes revealed undisguised triumph. "Do you still think you can lie to me now?" Nate's breathing grew heavier as he suddenly gripped her chin, forcing her to look up at the document on the phone screen. Brother, what are you talking about?" Emma slapped Nate's hand while desperately maintaining her innocent expression. Nate frowned and read out word by word the messages Emma had sent to Rose in the chat records. He continued through gritted teeth, asking, "Emma, I told you long ago that Rose would soon become part of our family. Why are you trying to drive a wedge between her and me?" Emma sobbed tearfully but persistently refused to give a direct answer. Nate ran out of patience and instead tightly gripped her neck. "I'm telling you, Emma, I've seen plenty of women like you before. I indulged you in everything because you were my sister. I never expected it would make you develop such improper thoughts. If it weren't for you always playing the victim in front of our parents, making them ask me to take care of you, I wouldn't even glance your way. A green tea bitch like you, throwing yourself at me. I'd feel dirty just looking at you again." Nate threw Emma heavily to the ground and was about to walk away when she tightly grabbed his pant leg. "Brother, you've always doted on me since childhood. Haven't you always loved me? Rose is just a second-hand item you've grown tired of. I'm younger and cleaner than her. Why won't you be with me?" Nate kicked her away in disgust and opened a video locked in his phone's album. In the video, Emma was wearing a miniskirt. Her body almost pressed against a man in a suit. She coquettishly fed him grapes mouth to mouth, her face full of flattery. "You claim to be innocent, then what is this video? I thought it was just a prank, that someone used AI face swapping to frame you. I can't understand. If you've been involved with my best friend all along, why did you put on this act of unwavering loyalty in front of me?" Emma shook her head repeatedly in agitation. "No, brother, I've only ever loved you. Getting close to the people around you was just to keep up with what's happening in your life. Ever since you started dating Rose, you haven't treated me as well as before. I'm afraid one day you'll abandon me. I don't want to go back to being alone and helpless. The children in the orphanage always bullied me. They hit me with branches and beat me. If it weren't for your protection, they would have killed me long ago. I don't want you to leave me, brother," Emma pleaded pitifully, pouring out her grievances. Nate lowered his eyes and suddenly remembered that Rose had also grown up in an orphanage. Over the years, she has worked hard to support herself, balancing work and study while maintaining her integrity. From being a helpless orphan to becoming a capable and independent woman, she even managed to buy a house outright in City A in her 20s. He couldn't imagine how much bullying and disdain she had endured behind the scenes. Moreover, since she became pregnant, despite vomiting until her face turned pale every day, whenever he returned home, The dining table was always filled with his favorite dishes. Rose had never experienced parental love since childhood, yet she could still love and care for him without reservation. Nate suddenly felt an unprecedented surge of tenderness in his heart. He had to find Rose and make up for all the love he owed her over the years. When Nate found me in City W, I had already obtained a work visa for the U.S. Half a year ago, the company had already considered sending me to the headquarters in Country M for a position. Rose, your work performance over the past few years has been evident to everyone. Once you go to the headquarters, you're bound to achieve great things. You really shouldn't confine yourself here just for a man. My boss patted me on the shoulder, earnestly advising me. But at that time, I had just found out I was pregnant. And my mind was filled with beautiful visions of marrying Nate, having never experienced parental warmth growing up. I had always longed for the day when I could have my own little family. Seeing that he couldn't persuade me and the branch office couldn't spare any other employees at the time, the matter of transferring to the headquarters was temporarily put on hold. It wasn't until I posted Nate and Emma on the company intranet that my boss heard the news and learned about the breakdown of my relationship with Nate, prompting him to bring up the plan with me again. As I stepped out of the visa application center, I saw Nate leaning against his car, waiting, smoke curled around his fingertips, and as soon as he saw me, he quickly put out the cigarette and hurried over. Rose, I heard you're going abroad soon. Is that true? Haven't you always wanted to go home with me to meet my parents? They've just returned from their vacation out of town. Let's go today. I shook off his hand, gripping mine, and stared back at him steadily. It had only been a few days since we last met, yet it felt as if a whole century had come between us. The man in my memories, so spirited and captivating, now stood before me with a scruffy beard and bloodshot eyes, looking utterly disheveled. Forget it. I shook my head lightly and walked past him without another word. 5 years is such a long time. If he truly wanted to marry me, he wouldn't have waited until today to say these words to me. I've already wasted too much time on him. From now on, I won't pin my hopes on others to live my life. Rose, I won't let you leave. Nate suddenly hugged me from behind. I know you're bothered by my relationship with Emma. I'll call her right now and make sure she never bothers us again. As he spoke, he was about to pull out his phone. At that very moment, a white car on the roadside suddenly lost control and rapidly sped toward me. Stunned by the sudden accident, I froze in place, only to be forcefully pushed aside by a strong impact. Bang! A violent crash erupted right beside me. Countless people screamed in shock and rushed forward, and soon the sound of police sirens filled the air. Nate lay unconscious on the ground, his body drenched in blood. The driver of the white car was caught on the spot, with countless onlookers pointing their phone cameras at her face. Emma looked completely deranged. Her hands were tightly handcuffed by the police, leaving her no choice but to glare at me with venomous eyes. Rose, you vixen. You stole my brother. I'll make sure you die a horrible death. I'll kill you. My brother was supposed to be mine alone. This scene was quickly posted online and pushed by the algorithm to people who might know her. Soon, an anonymous source came forward with a revelation. That woman who was almost hit and I were both just pawns in this siblings' twisted game. That murderer seduced me years ago, swindling me out of money and sex. It took me years to realize she'd been sleeping with her own brother all along. Netizens quickly followed the trail and found the PDF file I had posted on Weibo. The hashtag white car driver in W City commits intentional murder soon trended on social media. Is this mistress insane? Failing to steal the husband, she tries to run over the wife with a car. Sentence her to death immediately. Oh my God. This guy must truly love his girlfriend. Even in such a life and death moment, he pushed her away. Upstairs is hopelessly romantic. If he hadn't been so ambiguously entangled with his own sister, his girlfriend wouldn't have had to go through this. Folks, this scumbag and his despicable woman deserve to be doxxed. I just found their hometown address. Let's show their parents how disgusting their children are. The internet is boiling with public outrage. On the other side, Nate, who was barely saved but permanently lost a leg, was looking at me with sorrow. Rose, I've already saved you once, yet you still refuse to turn around and look at me. I slapped away his hand as he tried to approach me. my eyes devoid of any emotion. "This is what you owe me and the child. Stop looking at me with that disgusting face of yours. Every time you appear before me, I feel utterly sickened. Time and again, you abandoned me for Emma, and in the end, you even caused the death of my child. You two murderers are a perfect match. I sincerely wish you a long and happy life together." Without hesitation, I turned and walked out of the hospital room. Nate had tears and snot streaming down his face. "No, Rose, I swear, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." He struggled and fell to the ground, crawling toward the door like a dog, but my receding figure grew ever more distant, until I disappeared around the corridor's end without looking back. "Don't move around yet. You need to rest properly now." Just arriving in an unfamiliar environment, everything seemed extremely difficult. Fortunately, I had practiced my spoken language diligently during my student years, so I quickly adapted to this workplace environment that was completely different from back home. In my third year working here, I finally secured the position of general manager, and my salary saw further increases. The property I bought in City A was sold the year I left, and now I've purchased a new home near the company, coming home late and leaving early every day, indulging in leisure and pleasure. I live quite carefree in my early 30s. This year, the domestic branch sent another young colleague over. When I went to pick her up at the airport, she recognized me at a glance. "Were you the original wife in that white car driver murder case from a few years back?" She quickly pulled up the news from that year on her phone and animatedly recounted to me everything that had happened with Nate and Emma after I went abroad. It turned out that after this premeditated murder case hit the trending searches, Nate's parents also quickly learned the news. The elderly couple, unable to accept that their son had been involved with their adopted daughter, soon suffered cerebral hemorrhages and were rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. But unfortunately, they couldn't be saved. Lying in the hospital, Nate was filled with even greater hatred toward Emma upon hearing such devastating news. On the day the court held the trial for Emma, Nate suddenly stabbed her in the heart with a knife. Emma died on the spot. As a result, Nate was sentenced to death for intentional homicide. After finishing the story, my colleague's face was full of sighs. She opened her arms and gave me a gentle hug, and I remained calm, with not a ripple of emotion left in my heart. After leaving W City, I never looked at any news from home. From the day I lost my child, Nate had nothing more to do with me. Now my future is bright, and I will never stop for anyone again. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.